Cyrus. Peace, peace. Can y'all hear me? Let me know if y'all can hear me. I just had to share something with y'all real quick. I just want to know if everybody can hear me. Please let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Man, listen. I'm expecting to see some progress. Chocolate flame. Uh-huh. Anyway, peace, family, peace. Can y'all hear me? Oh, damn, that shit all the way up, too. Peace. Vegan God. Peace, my brother. Knowledge, understanding, noble guidance. Peace, King. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me, Vegan God? Peace. Yeah. Late start. Yeah. Whatever. All I know is shit better be finished. Fuck all that. Black Light Order. The young god, the young neophyte turned Hierophant. Good to see you in the live for a split second. I know you busy, brother, building these empires, so I don't expect you to be here long. Man, but y'all know my daily life is about consumption. I am constantly eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. Now, I had to share this with y'all. I'm always absorbing information. I don't share a lot of things because depending on what it is, it's either based on whether, it's too above the human aspect or it's not as significant to my personal opinion. I don't like to drown y'all in books because I don't want people to think that books are the answers, because actually it's the combination of observation and your intelligence that brings clarity. And especially one of the main reasons why I don't push books hard is because first and foremost, man creates the book and man comes before the book. So I don't push books hard because I understand that the combination of observation and intelligence by far surpasses any book. And a lot of times the things I break down or the things that I convey as far as a message or as far as a study or as far as a post actually comes from my observation intelligence first, and then I actually find the information to support it. I know a lot of y'all don't even realize that. But when you know something, you know it, and eventually you will find the evidence to support what you know. So I usually come from what I know in the subconscious first, and then find the logical foundation and analytical study to come and support this so the human mind can comprehend what I'm saying esoterically. But anyway, I ain't even going, I hear you, peace. I ain't even going to go too long. Listen, I'm always consuming right now. Out of the many books that I'm consuming as we speak, I'm reading this one, which this one is it's just fucking beautiful, man. This book, I've read hundreds and hundreds of books, and the beautiful thing about books, you can read 100 books, and only 2 out of those 100 books actually give you anything. Don't think a book gonna give you shit. It's about activation. And this book I'm reading right here, as y'all know, every once in a blue, I like to share it with y'all when it's very significant. But anyway, I'm going to just get into this real quick. It's called What is Occultism by Dion Fortune. And always, when you're dealing with books, find the oldest books you can find. If you look up this author, Dion Fortune, she was living in the early 1900s. So she wrote this book almost 80 years ago, all right? So, I mean, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, God damn, some deep shit. But I just got to share with y'all because the beauty about intelligence and about source knowledge and knowingness is that truth is full circle. And a lot of things I speak, I always come across in my studies to solidify and validate it. And to me, this is solidifying everything I teach, everything I'm saying. And mind you, I've probably had this book for years and never touched it. And I just randomly pick up books every day from my library, and I just randomly read them as I walk. I have tons of books in my space of business, where I service. I'm always surrounding myself. These are my swords. My students know these are my swords. I keep a sword with me at all times. All right? Let me just jump in here. Now, this is a chapter speaking on numerology and prophecy. And basically, this book is just breaking down the different esoteric and occultist techniques that are used with occultist groups and esoteric lessons, and why they're used, how they're used, and the significance of them. So this chapter is just basically chiming on numerology as an occultist tool, an occultist technique, and how numerology is connected to prophecy. All right? Now, I don't want to read the entire chapter to y'all, but I just want to read what resonated with me so deeply. Matter of fact, maybe I will just go through the whole thing until I reach the point that I'm making my point at. But anyway, there are so many different systems of numerology that to give a definition which would include all of them is not an easy matter. They range from the simple substitution of numbers for the letters of English alphabet and the translation by their aid into numerical value of name, which our parents, influenced by considerations of family interest and recently read fiction, saw fit to give us, to the most elaborate mathematical calculations based on detailed measurements of objects celestial and terrestrial, carried to 6 decimal places. Between these two extremes, polarity, there is every grade of elaboration and every point of view. Spectrum. It is not possible in these pages to give a detailed analysis of all the different systems competing for our attention, nor yet justly to assess their merits. Some of them are of a complexity that demands prolonged study and considerable mathematical aptitude for their understanding, and it is unjust and misleading to criticize a system unless adequate time has been given to its study. It is simple enough matter to knock down on sallies of one's own setting up, and the concept of a system which the adverse critic undertakes to demolish may bear very little resemblance to that which its exponents are endeavoring to explain. Okay, all right. Basically, it's saying that there are so many different systems of numerology, and we cannot knock one for the other because all of them are intertwined and connected. All right? Initiates have always attached great importance to number, color, sound, and form, holding that according to the Hermetic maxim, as above so below, the spiritual affinities of a given object can be deduced from these things, and that with its spiritual affinity, it will have a special link. All right. All numbers, all colors, all forms dictate a specific signature to a numerical pattern, equation, or state of existence. We getting somewhere. We getting to the part that I really want y'all to take in consideration. This affinity is special link. Therefore, utilize these objects when they wish to get in touch and bring through into manifestation those potencies on the inner planes which they are held to represent. Everything starts off as sound, everything starts off as geometrics, and these geometrics and sound can be equated to numbers in numerology. These geometrics and sounds and numerologies and elements are in existence before the actual plane that things exist on. So basically what it's saying is the science of numerology, or the significance of numbers and the vibration of numbers, take strong in consideration to the creation of the planes that we live on and the objects that we utilize. The uninitiated believe that force invoked comes into physical manifestation through the symbolic object. But the initiated know that the material object is not employed to enable the power to come down, but to enable the mind of the magician to go up along a particular line of consciousness. Say that one more time. The uninitiated, the unconscious, the lower self, the uneducated, the lack of knowledge, one, believe that force invoked comes into the physical manifestation through the symbolic object. Many people believe that certain forces are manifested through the physical. Basically, is what this person is saying. But the initiated, the one who is of source knowledge, the one who is of the higher self, but the initiate know that the material object is not employed to enable the power to come down. The material object and material things have no power. Material objects and physical things do not dictate the range of power that comes from the mental plane or the manifestation plane before the physical. So basically, worshiping any material shit makes you lower than the material shit itself. Now, enable to power come down. But to enable the mind of the magician to go up along a particular line of consciousness. So basically, the symbols and the objects that we use in occultism, in life, our clothes, our personas, whatever it is, our ego, have nothing to do with the power that is above it that manifests it into reality. But the true magician understands that even though these things have no power within them, they can be used as a form of ladder to raise one up to where the power is held. Okay? So your symbols that you wear on your body, everything around you physically, from the physical elements to the symbols that represent what you choose for it to represent, are only tools for you to climb up higher to an existence to where those symbols are not needed and you are reaching the source of force and power. I know, I'm sorry, I know some of y'all probably like, what the fuck is this talking about? But anyway, I'm sharing with y'all shit that resonates with me. Because it's very lonely, and I'm sharing with y'all something that resonates with me. I'm reading this, I'm like, damn, this shit is... Now, along a particular line of consciousness. Okay, let me read that one more time. The uninitiated believe that the force invoked comes into physical manifestation through the symbolic object. People who don't know the higher self think that physical things hold some type of power. That's basically what it's saying. And that power comes through that physical thing. That's not true. It's not true. Now, but the one who is initiated know that material object is not employed to enable the power to come down, but to enable the mind of the magician to go up along a particular line of consciousness. So the physical objects within your existence, the symbols, the esoteric, the occultist objects are used for you to go up a particular line of consciousness. So this Ankh is a tool that brings me to a particular line of consciousness, which is Kemet, which is so-called Africa. That's a particular line of consciousness, which, by the way, is a box. It's a box. And I'm wearing it. It's a box, okay? But it's still a symbol that is utilized to bring it to a higher level of a particular line of consciousness. This one symbol is a particular line because it's an Ankh. Ankh is associated with Egypt. Egypt is associated with originally Kemet, and then Africa, and so on and so forth. That's a particular line. Particular line is just another way of saying box. Now, his mind contacts the potency, and it is through his own nature that the power comes down, not through the so-called magical object. So, the talisman, all y'all witches out there, so-called witches, or as mine, circle knows, entrances, all y'all so-called witches out there, all y'all so-called occultists, doing spells and so on and so forth, the higherers understand that talisman, that crystal, that object, that symbol, actually has no power. It is the man or the individual who gives potency to the object through his own nature. Now remember, I just said earlier, man is the fire of element, or the element of fire. Woman is the element of water. This is their natures. So water and fire are elements within their cells and energies within their cells. And if I understand my nature as those elements, I can invoke the power of that element into an object, making the other outside of that thinking that the object is actually doing something. But the object doesn't hold power. My nature and resonance hold power, which I invoke into the object, or the talisman, or the crystal, okay, or the symbol, okay. I'm still not even getting to the part that's deep yet. That's the funny part. His mind contacts the potency, and it is through his own nature that the power comes down, not through so-called magical objects. It must be clearly realized that the value does not lie in the material object, but in the train of thought it evokes. The value does not lie in this ankh. This ankh has no value. The symbol itself has no value. The value comes from what is provoked through the thought of when I look at that symbol. Go around my tools and show, yes, you saved the life for those who tuned in late. Thanks for it. Yes. So nothing around you has power until you give the potency to it with your attention and intention. All right? So after thousands and thousands and thousands of years of human beings watching deities written on the wall holding ankhs in their hand, this ankh became powerful through the intention and attention of the individuals over centuries, collectivized, concentrated, giving this ankh a power. The power, however, may subsequently be associated with the object, thus forming a talisman. The subject of a talisman is of great interest, but it is beyond the scope of the present study. The matter is merely referred to here in order to prevent confusion of thought. Objects do not have numerical values assigned to them arbitrarily, but in accordance with some of the most profoundest principles of esoteric cosmology. All right. Every object is associated with a numerical value or a number. Just like every object is associated with a color and a sound as well, but we're talking about numbers right now. Now, these numerical values or these numbers associated with those objects are not by chance or random or arbitrary. They are significant and are in accordance with the profound principles of esoteric cosmology, which means that the numerical value of anything comes before the human being, which means that numbers exist before the human being, which means that the significance of a number exists before the placement of it from a human mind. Objects do not have numerical values assigned to them arbitrarily, but in accordance with some of the most profoundest principles of esoteric cosmology. The different planes of existence came into manifestation during different phases of the cycle of the logoidal being. Let me read that again. The different planes of existence came into manifestation during different phases of the cycle of the logoidal being. Their substance is organized out of atoms of different types. All right. Now, y'all hear my section. Aren't I always talking about cycles? I say everything is a cycle, frequency, or level. All right? All your existence is cycles. This is why death does not exist. Because everything is a cycle of replenishing, rejuvenating, renewal. Okay? So there is no beginning or end. Only beginnings and ends of new and old cycles. Now, I want to, because I'm still haven't got there yet. I'm going to let y'all know when I get there. Each cycle has a different phase, a different rotation, a different duration, a different momentum. And that different phase of cycle dictates the type of plane you're on. Their substance is organized out of atoms of different types. These atoms, here we go, y'all. This is the shit that made me want to share this with y'all. All right. Let's start from the top of the paragraph. Objects do not have numerical values assigned to them arbitrarily, but in accordance with some of the profoundest principles of esoteric cosmology. The different planes of existence came into manifestation during different phases of cycle of logoidal being. Their substance is organized out of atoms of different types. These atoms are really nothing but force in cyclic motion. All right? Vortices, infinitely minute. All right. Vortices is like a vehicle, simultaneous gateway. A vortex or a vortice is something that you can travel in, but also something you can go through. Now, organized dividend. An atom is a vortice. That's what this book is saying. An atom is a vortice, and it's nothing but a type of force within a cyclic direction, a cyclic motion, or a cyclic duration, or a cyclic momentum. Infinitely minute, microscopic, quantum. Their motion, however, is not in a circular path, but an angular one. All right, hold on, y'all. We're talking about the atom now, and we're talking about how different atoms dictate different planes of existence. That's what we're talking about right now. Their substance is organized out of atoms of different types. These atoms are really nothing but force in cyclic motion, vortices infinitely minute. Their motion, however, is not in a circular path, but in an angular one. And some follow a three-sided angular path, some a four-sided angular path, some a five-sided angular path, some a six-sided angular path, some a seven-sided angular path or orbit. Each plane of the manifested universe is characterized by prime atoms which possess an orbit of a particular type. Now notice what I said. The atom does not go into cycles of a circular path. The atom moves in cycles of an angular path. Now, what are we talking about? The atom is masculine. So therefore, the atom does not move in circular paths. The atom does not move in spherical or circular or smooth motion. The atom moves angularly. Atum. The atom is man. Also, notice it said the atom moves in an angular motion, sometimes three-sided, four-sided. What are we talking about? Geometric shapes. What's the four-sided? That's the square. The octagon. We have the 5-point star, the pentagram. We have the 6-point star, the hexagram. These are geometrics created before the human mind, before the human being existed. And the rotation of the atom is what dictates the plane of existence that you're on. Each plane of manifested universe is characterized by prime atoms which possess an orbit of a particular type. Each plane develops a special type of force and consciousness. Now, mind you, we just said that certain things, especially atoms, are already conscious. First of all, dark matter or black matter is consciousness, period. So anything that comes out of the waters of noon, which is the black waters, which is the black waves, which is the black matter, which is the dark matter waves, which is string theory by European science, anything that comes out of that, okay, has a conscious from the consciousness it came from. It's no different from the fact that you being in your mother's womb your mother gives you her consciousness within her womb. So you are birthed within dark consciousness, and when you are born, you take that consciousness with you into this physical plane. Each plane developed a special type of force consciousness. Each plane had as the focus of its development one of the planets. That is to say, when the evolutionary life wave was on a particular planet, a particular plane was developed. Each pattern of geometric wave, which are atoms going at angular rotations and motions, dictate the physical plane that you live on. Each atom possesses its own consciousness, which brings a level of consciousness to the plane that you're on. We are on a third dimensional plane because whatever atoms make up this plane are of a consciousness that is of a third dimensional frequency. Therefore, we can only see things and we can only sense things on that frequency of consciousness on this plane, which is physical. I don't know if I'm losing y'all, because I ain't gonna lie, I don't share this type of stuff for a reason, but this book right here, it's just been hitting me back to back. But anyway, evolutionary, particular plane planet developing. Now, all right, so basically, some of you should already know, basically this chapter is explaining why numerology is significant in occultism and also how it works to dictate and prophesize astrology and how it works dictating the vibration, not dictating, but giving you, allowing you to know the vibratory numerical value of each planet within our orbit and within our solar system or within our galaxy. Each planet is constructed and dictated based off the atoms and the consciousness of the atoms, based off the particular angular motion of that atom, whether it's a three-sided angular perspective, which is a triangle, whether it's a four-sided angular perspective, which is a square, whether it's a five-sided angular perspective, six-sided angular perspective, seven-sided angular perspective, okay? Going to the hexagram, pentagram, etc. All right? These things dealing with these atoms combined is what dictates your actual planets or the planetary bodies we call planets, which are actually harmonious realms. Harmonious realms developed out of the combination of geometrics, tones, and numerical value, with atoms making angular motions based on how many sides the atom creates. This also goes into the density of the plane you live on, because if I have an atom that only makes a cycle rotation in an angular form that's only three-sided, then guess what? The plane I'll probably exist on will probably be more of a two-dimensional plane. It'll be a lower plane. But the more sided the atom angular rotation creates, the more dense the plane becomes. If I take geometrics and place one geometric on top of the other, 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 that creates a density of geometrics, which creates a plane of existence that you can stand on, which becomes physical, because it is the type of density that dictates whether it's physical or not. Whether we can see it, whether we can touch it, whether we can measure it. I just got into the deep part. It will thus be seen that a plane of existence, a type of consciousness, a planet, and a particular type of atom will all be associated together. This is why you are able to dictate and prophesize a person's sign dictated by the planetary orbits. That's why it works. This is what the chapter is explaining. That's why when I talk shit about a Capricorn, no matter whether I know the person or not, I'm on point, because the Capricorn is aligned with a planetary density. That planetary density is aligned with a numerical value. That numerical value is connected to a geometric shape and angular motion of an atom. If I know the angular motion of that atom, I can dictate or prophesize the movement of that planet, the movement of that star, and dictate the sign that star evolves over, which is Capricorn. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm using Capricorn. All right, let's keep going. The prime or fundamental atom will have a certain number of tangents in its orbit, and this number of tangents will determine the vibratory rhythm of its movement. All the complex forms on the particular plane will be built out of these atoms. Therefore, there will always be, in whatever associations they may be gathered, the fundamental number of that plane as one of the prime factors into which their vibratory rhythms can be reduced. All right. What did I just say? Each atomic circular motion made in angular evolutions or revolving dictates the numerical value, which dictates the plane of existence and consciousness that you're on. Because every atom or atum, the man, has a consciousness, and how he moves, which he moves in angles because he is man. Man moves in straight lines. The reason why man is angular, because only straight lines make angles. Man is one directional. He goes like this, then he goes like this. That's an angle. These circular motions of these atoms dictate the physical plane that you exist on. Each atom has a form of its own consciousness. When an accumulation of these atoms of their own consciousness get together, that plane is created of a density which allows you to stand on it, touch it, feel it, physical existence. But then the consciousness of those atoms dictate the vibratory rhythm of that plane, which, by the way, goes into your sunrise, go into your moon cycles, go into your orbits, go into your celestials, go into your equinoxes. So what are we saying? We're saying that numbers dictate the vibratory rhythm and movements of the planets, of the stars, so on and so forth. All the complex form of that particular plane will be built out of these atoms. Therefore, there will always be, in whatever association they may be gathered, the fundamental number of the plane of one prime factors into which their vibratory rhythms can be reduced. These vibratory rhythms are the basis of all existence. And you wonder why your black ass got so much rhythm? Rhythm dictates all of existence. Why do you think rhythm is one of the 7 laws? Why do you think white people don't got rhythm? You have to be of existence, of nature, of universe, to embody what nature and universe is. But if you are a grafted creature, you can't embody that. So therefore, you have no rhythm. Everything moves within rhythm. Existence exists within rhythm. Cycles spin within rhythm. These vibratory rhythms are the basis of all existence. They can all be expressed in mathematical terms. Hence the significance of number in esoteric science. For these sacred numbers are the formulae of the invisible forces which are behind all things, visible and invisible. Now, black gold goddess, she mentioned on my last live, the invisible is the masculine. Remember that. Everything the eye can see is the feminine. So the force behind these planes is masculine. The unknown, the unseen, the amun. For practical purposes, a knowledge of numerical factors is chiefly of value for determining the inner relationships existing on the subtler planes. It has a secondary value in that cycles of recurrence can be worked out numerical factor or the numerical value of any planet, any existence, you can work out its cycles and you can prophesize the cycles of its own existence. And this is where prophecy comes from. This is where astrology comes from. This is where all of these things come from that's been utilized for millenniums based on the science of existence itself to dictate when this planet will come around, when this star will come around, when this equinox will come back, so on and so forth. Now, I'm sharing with y'all shit that resonates with me. This might not resonate with many of y'all. Many of y'all, I might be speaking Chinese to half of y'all, but I'm just sharing with y'all because this resonated with me, and I've told y'all a while ago I'm making more effort to be consistent with y'all, touching base with y'all, sharing with y'all, being direct with y'all, all right? But I don't want to go too deep into this, but bottom line, if you are not utilizing observation with a scientific mind, if you do not understand that rhythm, vibration, and the atom is the foundation of all existence, when you understand that the way an atom moves is what dictates the density that you will be in, if you understand that an atom holds a form of consciousness which dictates the realm that you will exist in, which will dictate the morality of that realm, which will dictate the frequency of that realm, because consciousness dictates frequency. So if we are in a third dimensional realm, then we must be in a three-sided angular atomic realm or angular atomic dimension. Within that low-sided dimension and realm, our consciousness is at dirt level. Since our consciousness is at dirt level, our frequency is at low level. Since our frequency is at low level, we have shorter lifespan. We're not psychic anymore. We've lost all forms of true alchemy. We've lost all forms of true magic. And now we're only straight physical, logical, get up and go to work ass motherfuckers. We are not creatresses anymore, and we are not manifestors anymore. We are consumers, and we are laborers. Period. And that's because we're on a third dimensional plane, because the atoms that exist on this plane that make up this foundational density dimensional existence are only moving through three-side angular motion. We want atoms that do this. Because once we get the atom that does this, we're on the fifth dimensional plane. And what is this? The pentagram, the five-pointed star. All right? But anyway, woo! I'm not gonna go no further. You know what I'm saying? But I had to share that with y'all, man, because and once again, this is what is occultism. Once again, if you are going to build your collection, I'm not knocking these new books. I'm not knocking your Pan-African stuff. I'm not knocking your Black Power books. But if you truly want to get the gems, Dion Fortune, this white woman died in like 1930. This book is almost 100 years old. The information in this book, I should say, is 100 years old. Almost 100 years old, all right? So when you are adding to your library, you want to get the oldest books you can find. You want to get the oldest information. This is why it's so idiotic when people want to debate me. Perfect example, like the Moors. You want to debate me about black means this, brother, and black means that. Motherfucker, you talking about some shit some white nigga wrote yesterday, nigga. Yesterday. I'm talking about some shit that goes back to existence. And you want to bring up some shit wrote down yesterday? I ain't got no time for that. We deal in source knowledge. We deal in source knowledge. If the motherfucker motherfucker don't go back to BC or beyond, you're wasting my time. I don't want to hear shit some white nigga wrote 100 years ago. Do not define me by a definition given by a troglodyte around a mahogany table that other troglodytes agreed with him with, and while niggas in the background in turbans validated him with. No, we're gonna go back to the existence before the grafted creature to get the real source knowledge. Anyway, y'all, I'm gonna keep this short, and I'm gonna get back to my study. I just want to share this with y'all. But listen, this is what I do. This is what I do all day. As y'all, I'm not home, y'all. I'm out in the world. I'm servicing. But this is my everyday shit. This is just regular shit. I walk around with half of these shit. So, this is what I do. This is my food. This is my food. The further you go learning the past, the further you'll go into the future. Yes, 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 absolutely, King Graham. All right, y'all, I'm going to let y'all go. I'll leave y'all alone with my crazy ass. And I'll touch base with y'all another time. Love y'all to death. Mind Ascension. I will be making sure I put this up on my channel later on, probably tonight or so. But I love y'all to death. And I'll be seeing y'all soon. Peace.